Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is yet another thoughts on, and this time around, I am sharing my thoughts on a short horror film called Serenade. Now, before I go any further, I want to give a special shout out to Eric for requesting this video. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description down below, and I'll try to get to it as soon as I possibly can. Now, Serenade is a short horror film which was actually written and directed by Eric. He also starred in it alongside Maddy Woods. He shot it with an iPhone, and he definitely, at least from what I interpreted this as, this is definitely something that was a homage, a love letter to lo-fi, low budget, minimalist horror, specifically the kind of horror stories that you would see adapted in horror anthologies in the 70s and 80s. Um, and I really enjoyed this short. I loved it. I thought that this was honestly one of the best things that I've seen in 2023. And it just is one of those things where it spoke to a lot of my personal sensibilities and my personal tastes. I am a enormous fan of the horror anthology genre of film, and I really like these short, contained horror stories. And this was definitely one of those instances. And another thing that I really liked about it is just how old fashioned and old school it was in terms of the structure of the story and how things unfold. It doesn't really rely on jump scares. It's not lazy like that. It doesn't even have a typical predictable sort of ending for these kind of short stories. It actually leaves things rather open-ended in terms of the main guy is still alive, even though he's got a lot of questions that still have answers that may never be answered. And it's just one of those things where I think even though it's just something that Eric said he did for fun, you can definitely feel the passion and the love for what he's doing here. And I think the concept is genuinely interesting. It deals with this antique shop owner who finds this record player on the side of the road, picks it up, cleans it up, and he's thinking about reselling it. Like anybody would. It's an antique. It's an antique. It's right up his alley. And in the process of him cleaning this record player up and uh, checking to see if everything's working properly, he finds a lot of disturbing things. He finds a record that has a name on it. The name is Victoria, and he puts it in the record player and he plays it, and it's this weird recording of what appears to be somebody being tortured and this woman screaming for her life. And then he digs further and continues to explore the innards of this record player, and he finds other disturbing things. He finds what look like occultic drawings and spells, and finds a long strand of human hair and a photo of what might as well be Victoria with a blindfold on. And just the way that all of this unfolds is really creepy and really interesting. And there are some typical sort of things where, oh, he's visited by the spirit of Victoria late at night. But I still feel that that was handled in a way that's kind of unorthodox because it relied a lot on old school sort of tricks or elements of storytelling. So you didn't have a lot of the typical sort of jump scares. You had the stuff that makes you think. Like he put all this stuff that he found in the record player in a box and he put it up in a closet somewhere. Well, late that night, he hears the record again. And then a bunch of this stuff is no longer in the box. So that's something that reminds me of kind of the stuff you saw in like The Changeling, which Orsi Scott by Peter Medak, where he gets rid of the ball, but then the ball comes back and bounces down the stairs. That kind of stuff is still chilling. It's classic, but it's still chilling. And it's considered a classic bit of storytelling, especially when it comes to like a ghost story for a legitimate reason. And then you get to the ending, which is just him paying his respects to Victoria's grave and driving off with, you know, still some sort of connection with this ghost because he's trying to listen to the radio, and the ghost comes through the radio and starts, doing her wailing and messing with him. And I love how he's just like, I don't have time for this. I just want to listen to the damn radio. I don't care about this ghost crying. And so he just turns the station until he gets the song on the radio and just moves forward already and just drives off with the song 96 Tears, which plays during the end credits. And I actually replied, I left a comment on the video, which I'll link in the video description below if you're curious about checking it out for yourself. And I asked Eric if he was a fan of Cat's Eye, because 96 Tears was used in the Quitters Inc. segment in that film and used very well. And he said, yeah, he's a big fan. He's a big fan of the James Woods segment. And I thought that was great. It was a nice little touch. And yeah, I think the script is really solid for what it is. There's not a lot of dialogue, but I think that's a positive. It relies more on atmosphere, which for this kind of short, I think that's definitely the right call. And I thought Eric did a pretty good job acting. He realized that, he's not a master thespian or anything. So he's like, I'm not going to give myself a lot of dialogue. And I think that worked in a multitude of different ways. It worked when it comes to uh, the atmosphere and the mood that the short is able to focus on first and foremost. And then it works in terms of working within his strengths as an actor, which I think for what's here, I think he did a good job as well. I think it was a good performance, but I think it might have shown a few more cracks if he gave himself more dialogue and tried to make this story into something that was mostly dialogue instead of atmosphere and mood. And I think that's something that a lot of legitimate full-length future films do. They tend to like focus a lot on this dialogue instead of just focusing on mood and atmosphere, and that makes the film rather dull and boring, and it really does expose a lot of the limitations of the cast. But that's not the case here, and I think it was a good choice by Eric, and it led to a good performance from him, and it led to the film definitely sticking with you. It's a movie that still resonates with me after watching it just a couple days ago. I think it's just a very haunting and creepy, well-made short. The direction by Eric I thought was excellent, especially his framing, especially the way that he handled different types of filming techniques, and especially the movement of the camera, the placement of the camera, how to have the right zooms or the right pans or the right moments that are just focusing on a certain thing in particular. Um, I was legitimately impressed with what Eric did on numerous levels with this short, and so much so I think he should take this to a film festival. And I know he just did this for fun, but some of the best work comes from that genesis. That moment of intrigue and interest in going out there and just making a movie. Some of the best stuff sometimes just comes from that place. And I think if he wants to keep tapping into that in the future, I'm all for it and I look forward to it. I think he showcased and displayed some genuine talent here as a writer and as a filmmaker. I've seen entire horror films, multiple modern horror movies that have gotten releases in on streaming or on other platforms that were not anywhere near as good as this short. So, yeah, if you're a fan of like old school, classic, lo-fi horror, I would recommend this short. And like I said, it's a short film, so it's not that long. It's not going to take a whole lot of time out of your day. One other thing I want to mention before I go, though, is his use of music. I thought that was also really good, as well as the sound design, especially the creepy recording on the record of Victoria and what might as well be her death. Um, but yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. I would recommend this. And yeah, it's just one of those things where I could have seen this in a horror anthology. In fact, I've seen horror anthologies that have segments that are 10 times worse than this. Like, I thought this was better than any segment in VHS, to be honest. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the short horror film Serenade. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.